Welcome to Startup Greece Talks. On this episode, I will meet Alex Lambropoulos, co-founder of Measurely. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
A great pleasure, and I'm looking forward to learn more about Measurely and for sure for you, and what you are doing and how you would like to change the market. So before that, let me ask you, where are you right now? What are you doing?
Right now, I'm in my house in Glyfada.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little cold here in Greece, but just working on mostly on sales stuff. We're very focused on sales right now, but yeah, just here at home. We're fully remote. Obviously, we just started,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my house is my office.
I hope you enjoy, and I believe that you are born on this way of working.
For sure, yeah. It's something I got used to. Even before COVID, I had tried remote work, and I liked it. It made me very productive in certain circumstances. Maybe it doesn't do it to everyone, but I'm a fan of it for myself.
Okay, you prefer, as far as I know, you come from the US. You prefer Greece. You prefer being on the seaside. So, what's your preference on that?
100% Greece. So I lived in the US for a while, and I decided it wasn't for me. But I take a lot of things from my experience there, and a lot of people, a lot of friends, a lot of coworkers, and all that knowledge definitely helps me today. I think everybody should, given the chance, should leave Greece and live somewhere else, just so they can sort of open their minds to something different. But ultimately, my home is here, and I don't want to leave.
Okay, great to know. So, please share with us more about your background. It's very interesting that you have studied in the US. I would like to learn more about it, and for sure, how you come up with the idea of Measurely.
Yeah, so I left. Actually, I left, and I think this is an interesting story. I left Greece at a very young age. Not very young. I left when I was 15, and I left voluntarily. It was 2011. The crisis had just started. We didn't have books in school. It wasn't a very happy time to be in Greece, and so I wanted to leave and sort of chart my own path and start my life. I thought there's many things I can learn there in the U.S. and that's where I was going to belong. Of course, when I went there, that all changed because the grass is always greener on the other side, as they say. But I studied economics and finance, and I became very interested in the Greek startup scene. I decided to start a company based in Greece to help students get into university in the US. The company flopped eventually. We did help a few people, so we did achieve our mission to some extent, but we never achieved really scalability. And to be honest, I lost interest in the project. So after that whole time, and after I worked a little bit in the finance sector in the US, I decided to come back to Europe. I came back to Greece. I started working for a growth marketing agency in London, where I worked with several seed stage, pre-seed startups on gaining early traction. I learned a ton about growth marketing. I basically kind of learn as you go, but I was very fascinated by it. So I would spend all my time sort of reading and learning as much as I could about it to stay ahead of the game. And that really paid off since I was able to really do some meaningful work. We worked with some big VCs in London, and we also had a growth marketing series training across Europe. Anyway, that's that. After that chapter closed, I went to Beat, which was also where I was recently, where I was recently head of growth. There, I basically led the global rider and driver growth teams, most recently on efficient growth, profitable growth. That was the focus of the company. Obviously, ride-hailing is a difficult industry these days, but everybody's talking about efficiency in these markets. And so that was my mission. And actually, that's kind of where, very related to Measurely, is sort of the idea of personalization and better sort of operational scalability in terms of how we communicate and incentivize our customers can really enable increased efficiency. So, for example, we built lifetime value models to focus on our high value users, prevent them from churning, understand why they churn, and prevent them from churning. and build sort of hyper relevant messages for each of our customer segments based on their preferences, based on their behaviors. We were still building that after as I was leaving, as the company closed, but we saw a lot of the early effects of it, which was great. And then I started Measurely. I was actually thinking about starting Measurely a little bit before I left Beat. And as I was building the sort of CRM engine, let's say, with the team, it just really fascinated me how, well, on one hand, how personalization really has this potential, and especially enabling scalability, right? Because if I communicate with someone, I just send a random email today to all of my users, that's one thing. But if I'm able to actually just message them based on a trigger of behavior or trigger of something that's predicted to happen, that's very powerful because you're able to sort of insert yourself at the right moment, at the right time with the right message. Several platforms are doing this. And our idea with Measurely is to really help build the foundation for that from a data perspective to enable this hyper personalization.
Okay, so AI these days, it's a huge trend. Let's say it's a buzzword. Everybody's talking about AI and using AI, and ChatGPT make it quite broader. And I think that's something that is gonna make the world. And I believe that using AI, you could build great products that companies would probably love. So, what's the problem that you are trying to solve? And is it something specific or is it something wider?
I would say there are specific problems that we're still zeroing in on the exact problem, but there are several ones that we've identified. First of all, these AI models, they seem so out of touch to many companies that don't have the resources to invest in them. So you hear about Uber's AI models and all these companies that are utilizing them, but it's sort of this sort of secret thing that you don't really understand or can use. When in reality, it's a set of it's a set of decision trees that are just primarily based on information, right? Based on data. And so the most valuable piece of that is how you feed the data and what data you feed it. You can have the fanciest sort of neural network with crappy data, doesn't mean anything, versus a simple regression model with the best data will outperform that any day. So that's one of the key problems. And the second one, I think, has to do a lot with personalization. We're seeing now a lot of interest in companies to invest in better engagement and better retention. Obviously, retention and engagement is something constantly companies are looking for, particularly in the B2C medium high frequency space. But the tools weren't always there to enable that. Some companies built it in-house, like Uber, for example, has their own in-house built CRM platform. Not everybody has the resources in order to be able to do that. So now that these platforms are enabling these journeys, the data that feeds them is sort of kind of a hole that's left up to the data engineering and data science, data analytics, CRM teams at a company, which you have to be at a certain scale to build. And so what we offer is essentially a condensed version of that for this narrow use case of personalization.
Okay, so being on the exploration phase right now and start working with some first customers, how's your reactions? I mean, what are the customers saying about what you are providing, and where are you exactly right now on that phase?
I think it's one thing that we're hearing is it's not. First of all, it sounds great. People love, but the question is how, and how much, and specifically when it comes to how is, they might say, all right, but we're not Uber or Beat. People don't take rides every day, and so the frequency maybe isn't that high. And our response to that which I think is true, is even it's not just about sort of think of an Airbnb. You might take let's say you're the average Airbnb customer. You go on Airbnb twice a year, or booking a flight, anything, right? There's a lot of it's not just about the act of booking that flight, but there's so much more data there when it comes to your search and consideration, everything that comes throughout the customer journey. That is data that exists, and so we really want to sort of put that together and paint the customer journey, really understand it well. What are the leading indicators to sort of getting somebody to move across that journey, and then using those as key inputs.
So right now you are providing this as a consulting service, or is it and you have built a platform and you are providing something like that?
So for now, we're essentially a blend of a service provider, so in consultancy, with a lot of hands-on work on the data side. There is technology behind, which are some proprietary models that we have, but those aren't as important to us as the actual act of us working closely with teams on sort of data discovery and customer discovery through their data. And yeah, sorry, did that answer your question? I forgot exactly what.
Yeah, quite good. So, are you going to be specific on a field, or you are looking for the whole game? I mean, are you going to be an expert on a very specific market, let's say, or you would like to have something broader?
I think ideally we need to focus to scale. We haven't exactly found out how or what the biggest opportunity is. There's ideas of focusing on a specific business model, like only focusing on marketplaces, which is something we understand well, and there's a very clear use case for us. But that is pretty narrow. From that point onwards, we can work well with specific tools or very specific use cases. Because right now we're looking at matching algorithms, recommendation engines, and also enabling hyper-personalized marketing. That's a lot of stuff, right? What if we just focus on one of those things instead? That's still kind of in the back burner for now. For now, we're sort of approaching customers, looking at their stack, looking at and sort of predict or kind of guessing in a way what their top focus areas are and selling sort of very relevant services to them. But Measurely it is generic on purpose for now, just for us to be able to really understand and learn from that. And we want to do things that don't scale, let's say, for a few months.
So I'm moving to the question about how you make money. I got your answer about that you are right now providing is a service that you're providing as a consulting. So you make money for a one-time fee, a yearly fee. Is a software as a service? Is gonna be software as a service, a platform as a service?
Yeah, so
or it's gonna be something for a business, a B2B service. How you think it's gonna be at the end of the day, and what's the steps in order to be there?
Well, our model now is sort of we have it's a project based plan, but it's monthly pricing, and we do that because we want to be flexible with our clients. They might figure out it's not for them in the beginning. The way we've scoped out our projects, they take around 6 months to implement right now, which is a lot of sort of hands-on manual work for us and the data consultants we work with. Our idea of scalability comes at the point after that, which is sort of recurring model maintenance, improvements over time, which is all sort of that has a big product SaaS element to it. And also enabling our technology to plug into various tools, API tools, marketing tools, engagement platforms, etc. But yeah.
So the same time that you are building, the solution, as you said, you are building also a community of, as far as I can understand, a data consulting community.
Yes, exactly. It's a community of data experts. And there's two goals there. The first key goal is to actually help people in data. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter what your skill set is, but to actually help them progress in their careers by giving them access to opportunities, networking, speaking with the right people, job opportunities. But also for us, and this is where it helps us a lot, other than sort of us building a network and knowing, if I know someone that's very good at something specific, like I want to know who that person is so I can go and talk to them and learn from them, right? But apart from that, we also use this talent for our client work. So we work with them on a sort of part-time basis, depending on their schedule, at the rates that they want, based on our projects and based on where they're strongest.
So having your experiences on growth, and when we are talking about growth, we are talking about numbers. And the question is, tell us more about the market and how big it is.
For Measurely?
For Measurely, exactly.
It's a good question. It's honestly, it could be, if applied correctly, this broad, the broad Measurely as it exists today, it's honestly applicable to most B2C businesses out there. The challenge in terms of market comes on the amount of data that you have, or a company might have. So if you're too small, you don't have that many interactions to be able to actually use to train a model to do AI. Of course, you can use external data to do that. But for the purposes of personalization and personalizing to a customer behavior, to predict these things, you need the proper inputs. So there's a certain stage of company. Of course, it depends on the industry again, because an industry like gaming, for example, even a small companies, it doesn't have that many customers. The amount of interactions that happens in a gaming platform are incredibly high, right? So that's a lot of data points that you can use to personalize. But if you take a low frequency product, like a flight booking service or a travel booking service, then that becomes a lot more difficult. Not impossible, because, like I mentioned before, there are other aspects of it other than just a literal purchase. So I think that the number of data points is a key aspect of it. And I think B2C for us is the focus because, on one hand, B2B typically has less data, but I also think B2B, our benefits, if you're dealing with consumers, they just care about, getting what they want at the right time. They don't necessarily need fluff in between, right? And that's where personalization comes in. But B2B, I think, when it comes to retention, is mostly about the qualitative. Of course, quantitative plays a huge role, but I think qualitative plays a much bigger role in B2B. So apart from the data points, that's where we're thinking of focusing. Of course, saying B2C technology companies is very general, I know, but yeah.
Yeah. So could you tell us about the number that you believe that you're gonna address in the, let's say, for this first year that you're in the exploration, let's say, field? What's the goal for this year for you?
Our goal for this year is to work with 50 clients and complete our technology product, which our technology product essentially will be the later stages of our. It's what we'll plug into after we've trained these models. That's one part of the goal. And of course, because there's a lot of manual effort in what we do, and we're kind of doing things that don't scale right now, is to actually figure out where we want to focus and start making the operational side of the business more predictable and process oriented, and shorter, be able to do things faster, more effectively, more predictably, which only comes by doing and sort of building these processes as you go.
Okay, that's very clear and quite good. So right now, you know that on this market and using AI and using data from in order to grow, there are some other players already on board on the field. What's your let's say competitive advantage that you probably help us in order to be the winner?
Yeah. So the solutions that we see in the market today, they're either very general, so they're simply a data science agency, which isn't specialized in one field. And I think agencies, there's a lot of drawbacks to the quality of work they're able to offer. And I don't consider agencies a true competitions to us. I consider platforms, um, um, B2B platform SaaS tools, a bigger competitor. But the problem I see with most of those tools is that they're too plug and play. You sort of plug in your data, and then there's an AI model that somehow creates something, right? But for us, from what we've seen, there's a lot of work that needs to be done on actually training these models with the right kind of data. That's where most of the work comes in. That's what OpenAI did with with GPT. It's not a super fancy model that's being used. It's the amount of money and time they spend on actually building these inputs. So that's where I see kind of where our competitive advantage is. Of course, that's not really anything proprietary. It mostly comes down to our method. But if we do it right, then we can actually package this into software and build it up so it is a platform. That's our goal, is to become software. But yeah.
Okay, and is there any you tell us that there are some competitors, consultancy agencies is not a competitor, as you said. Is there any specific competitor that has started building something on AI-based personalization to increase that customer engagement?
There's a lot of personalization platforms. They don't market themselves as AI solutions necessarily, although they might use it. So there's a lot of SaaS tools that plug into other tools. So one of the, for example, an engagement platform that we're very familiar with is Braze. So Braze is a platform that enables you to create these journeys and create these marketing campaigns. To use Braze well, you need to feed them these segments, right? So there are tools out there that can sort of do that, but not to the highest quality. Again, they're too plug and play. I can name a few, but honestly, I haven't seen something that's really focused on this space in the way that we are. Of course, probably if we look harder, we're going to find it. But from our early research, we see that the way that we're approaching it is much different to either the out of the box SaaS solution or the agency. The sort of the in between isn't really there anywhere.
Um, is there something that you believe gonna gonna prevent others for competing in the same not in the same market but on the same way that you are using data and trying to customize the customer engagement? I mean, have you built
I,
something specific, or you have done something from your experience,
yeah.
the founders, have you done something quite good that you're gonna be in front of the competition?
Mhm. In terms of tech, we do have some sort of proprietary models that my partner Fabian, who is focusing a lot on the data science aspect of the business, has built and is working on, including through software. I think software could be our competitive advantage. I think right now our competitive advantage when it comes to that is our understanding, sort of blending growth, product growth with data science, and it's obviously very heuristic, right? It's just in our brains. But the way that we're approaching this problem, I think, is very targeted, and it's the right process, right? So we really believe in our process, and obviously that's not something that's super proprietary, but the idea is that we can make that proprietary. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It makes sense for sure. uh, so right now, um, you're on the early stage, on the first steps. So how are you gonna survive, and
Hmm.
what's the plan? So, do you have enough runaway in order to do
Yep.
your next steps, in order to finalize the product and to set up everything? As you said, you'd like to acquire 15 customers, and let's say, finish the technology platform until the end of the year?
Hmm. Yeah, so I mean, from a finance perspective, we do have, I would, the way we're working now, probably um, 2 years runway, I would say. So quite a bit of time. As we start building software, as we're doing now, we're seeing obviously there's more to that that's needed. Um, but um, yeah, I don't think it's a huge risk for us. Um, we're not particularly interested in raising money, at least right now. Um, we do want to sort of build this in our own way, and we do like the idea of building a bootstrapped business. Um, and we do see that financially we're okay for now. It's not something that we need to concern with ourselves yet. If we get to the scalability of clients with the data community at the same time, and while building the software, if the timing is right, then it should all work out. I think timing is very important, though.
Yeah, exactly. So I believe you are on the right, you are on track already. So it seems like that you have it, and the experience that you had before, it's quite important in order to make it happen. So tell us some more words about Fabian, your co-founder.
Hmm. Well, he's a great guy. His back, I mean, I worked with him at Beat. He was also at Beat. He was a director of marketplace. His background is very much on pricing and data science. Before that, he was at Grab, Uber, and Zalando. And so a lot of what he's brought to the table really is sort of when we're having, let's say, discussions about, I might look at a customer journey. I might say, okay, what can we understand from here and actually build into something, to predict something or generate an insight. And really what he brings to the table is his expertise on the data side and building out our methodologies. And the software side of the business, which essentially comes down to taking a lot of the models that we create and enabling them to plug into the right tools, enable the right actions, enable the right use case.
Okay. And what's the vision that you are sharing in order to make it big?
That everybody should be able to get access to the AI tools that the big boys have in a way, and that we want to enable smaller companies to be able to really achieve the same level of output with not necessarily the level of resources that big companies can afford to pour at these things. I would say it's sort of a vision.
Mhm.
Um,
Making accessible the usage of AI and the power that it's gonna, provide to let's say medium enterprise or small enterprises.
mhm.
So that's great, and I would like to share with us your favorite quote, or where do you find inspiration on this world in order to continue thinking about growth, building your own startup?
Mhm. I I'm not a big quote guy, but in terms of where I find my inspiration, um, I think I've failed in the past, and I I have this feeling inside of me that just says this is the right thing to do right now, and you need to just go 100% at it, and just don't stop.
Mhm.
And that's sort of what's driving me. Of course, I get a lot of energy from Fabian, my co-founder, and we sort of challenge ourselves and push ourselves, which is very important because I don't think uh, I could do this alone. Which in the past I had to run a startup on my own, and not having somebody to bounce things off of was what came at a detriment. I found myself stalling a lot of the time. I don't feel that now, and I also feel like we generally have a purpose. So it's really belief in what we're doing and sort of reinforcement among the team.
Mm. Quite important. You can go alone, but you can do it with a team quite quicker, uh, in an environment, in a better environment. And yeah, this is the way I believe that our world, I mean the world of startup work, and the numbers, it's there are not so many single founders on this world. So that's great. So thanks a lot. I wish you the best. Hope to stay in touch, and I would like to see the vision and what you are doing in reality, and um, to support small medium enterprise and make AI tools accessible. I mean the power of AI accessible to every business. So thanks a lot once again, and let's keep in touch.
100%. And I love what you're doing with the Greek startup community, and I think it's great. And I'm also looking forward to seeing that. So thanks for having me.
Great. Thanks a lot.